River City Ransom is one of the most exciting two-player games for the NES. At first, River City Ransom seems a lot like Double Dragon. You'll have to use your martial arts skills to kick and punch your way across River City to rescue Ryan's girlfriend Cindy from the local gangs and their leader, the mysterious kidnapper who refers to himself as Slick. This game may appear to be a simple beat-em-up, but it's actually more like an action RPG. You'll explore a large open world filled with bad guys to fight, weapons to use, bosses to battle, and secrets to uncover. In the beginning of the game, your character will be very weak, but enemies you defeat will drop money which you can use to purchase food and other items. Consuming these items will raise your stats and grant you new abilities, and once you've powered up, the gangs of River City won't stand a chance. You can even save your progress using a password, assuming you wrote it down correctly. River City Ransom's 32-character password with upper and lowercase letters is easily one of the most frustrating passwords on the NES. But frustrating or not, it's still nice to be able to pick up where you left off. River City Ransom was developed by Technos, the company that developed the original Double Dragon arcade games, so they certainly knew how to make action-packed martial arts combat. This was the third game in the Kunio series, which also includes Renegade and Super Dodgeball. These games may not seem related at first glance, but if you look carefully, the characters all have a similar style to them. In Japan, these games all star a hot-headed brawler named Kunio, and in River City Ransom, Kunio teams up with his rival Ricky, who is controlled by Player 2. In the English language version, Kunio was replaced by a guy named Alex, and Ricky became Ryan. But that wasn't the only change. While the gameplay itself is mostly the same, the North American version looks very different. Most noticeable are the outfits worn by the characters. This very Japanese clothing style probably would look like pajamas to a Western audience, so it was replaced with denim jeans and a t-shirt. Shop employees no longer bow to you as you exit a store, and some signage was changed. The Japanese version also features a third difficulty, which is easier than Novice Mode. This was removed for the English version. River City Ransom was directed by the team of Mitsuhiro Yoshida and Hiroyuki Sakamoto. This was the first Kunio-kun game that the two had directed together, but they would also work on Neketsu High School Dodgeball Club Soccer, which was retitled Nintendo World Cup when it released in North America. Before teaming up with Sakamoto, Yoshida had directed the previous game in the Kunio-kun series, Super Dodgeball, and after River City Ransom, Sakamoto would go on to direct the NES version of Double Dragon 2: The Revenge. While the game was a big hit in Japan, sadly River City Ransom was not terribly popular when it released in the US in 1989. Reviews of the game were mixed, and the concept of a beat-em-up RPG hybrid may have been difficult to explain. It didn't do much better in Europe, where it was retitled again. This time, it was called Street Gangs. Luckily, over time, players discovered this game's weird sense of humor and innovative gameplay. It became a bit of a cult classic or a hidden gem, but today, it's not so hidden anymore. Newer games like River City Ransom Underground and River City Girls expand upon the mechanics introduced in River City Ransom for a new but familiar feeling experience on a modern platform. Many other versions of the original game have been released, including one for the TurboGrafx CD and the Game Boy Advance. While these versions feature a number of enhancements, I'll always prefer the NES original. When IGN released their list of the top 100 NES games of all time, They ranked River City Ransom at number 15. If you'd like to play the NES version on a modern platform, it is one of the games included with the Switch's online service. Modern players that attempt this game will still have to deal with all of the challenges the NES is notorious for. If you don't know what to do, you could explore River City for hours without getting anywhere. The gangs are merciless and the bosses are even worse. Sure, you can continue as much as you want, but if you die, you'll lose half of your hard-earned money. But what if I told you an easy way to level up your character fast? What if I told you about secrets, like a password to get maxed out stats, or a hidden store with special items? And what if I told you the best way to defeat every boss? Even Slick himself? Well, on today's episode of You Can Beat Video Games, we'll learn all of that and more. If you're new to the channel, we're doing deep dives on retro video games and giving you the professional strategies that can be used by the casual gamer. Please make sure to subscribe and check out YouCanBeatVideoGames.com for episode lists, news, and official You Can Beat Video Games merchandise. And please join our Patreon for access to an exclusive Discord community and a chance to vote on future episodes. This episode was suggested and voted on by members of our Patreon community. Let's get started. All right, River City Ransom. Before we jump into the single player mode, if you're playing with a friend and your friend dies, quickly get off the screen and go to a new location. If you can make it before the message that says Alex or Ryan has lost all of his power fades from the bottom of the screen, you'll see that your friend is respawned with full health without losing any of his money. Nice. We should also talk about the secret password. To bring up passwords in this game, just pause and use the password command, and then use the erase command to clear out the password that's in there. Now enter MSHIN and capitalization matters, and then we're going to use the ahead command to get down to the second line. Now we're going to key in Technos with a capital T, skip ahead to the third line, and the final part of the password is Japan with a capital J. A normal password in this game would never have spaces in it, but this secret password will work. Don't worry about the player 2 password, and now check your status, and you'll see we have maxed out stats. So 63 for everything except for stamina and max power, which top out at 127. And on the right side, you can see what the starting stats look like. We also have all of the different moves that you can buy. So Stone Hands, Dragon Feet, Grand Slam, Acro Circus, Javelin Man, and Fatal Steps. And in case that wasn't enough, you also have $999.99, so you can buy yourself some Karma Jolt potions or whatever else you might need. Of course, you probably won't need to buy anything because with these stats, the enemies won't stand a chance. Alright, let's start the actual game. Alex and Ryan play identically, but they do have slightly different dialogue, and we're going to be playing on the novice difficulty. At the beginning, we get to see the ransom note that Slick sent Alex and Ryan. Now, if I were Olivia Benson, I'd suspect that this Slick guy is a first-time kidnapper because he makes a lot of rookie mistakes. He insists that we meet his demands, but he never says what those demands are. And we start the game with only $20 in our pocket, so if he was hoping for a big payday, he should have probably kidnapped someone else's girlfriend. In any case, as we get started, A punches and B kicks. Either button can pick up a weapon, and if you press the A button, you can use the weapon, or if you press B, you can throw it at the enemies. Weapons will give you more reach and help you deal more damage, but on the novice difficulty, you may be better off just using your basic punches and kicks. We need to keep fighting enemies until we have $27. We start with $20, so we only need to find 7 more. We need this money to buy a new technique which will make us much more effective in combat, so for now, only fight the generic dudes or the homeboys, and if you see the frat guys or pretty much any other gang, you should just run away and keep going back and forth between the locations until you see the gangs that you actually want to fight. If you're having trouble fighting the basic enemies, if you jump up onto the background elements, the enemies will freeze in place until you drop back down into the field of play. You can also jump on top of those garbage cans that they're carrying, and they'll run around like crazy. That's not super useful, but it is fun to do. And once we grab this coin, we now have $27. I think a lot of these enemies that we killed probably had whole dollar bills in their pockets, but Alex only seems interested in picking up the coins. Now that we have the $27 that we need, let's check out the stores in the Grotto Mall. The Rise and Shine Cafe doesn't have anything that we're interested in, but the Metro Bakery has some good deals. The muffins, bagels, or honey buns are good ways to raise your agility, defense, or strength, but right now we need to save our money until we get to the bookstore. There are a lot of options here at the sushi bar, and if you're interested in increasing your throwing power, the squid is a good deal. The expensive sushi offer a variety of benefits, but at a high price. As far as raising your permanent stats go, none of those are a very good deal. And the rolls are only good for restoring your health. So unless you've taken a beating, you won't be eating those rolls. For now, we're going to pass on the sushi and save our cash for this shop, the Grotto Bookstore. The Grotto Bookstore has 3 different items, and each one will give us a new technique. The one that we want to purchase right now is called Stone Hands. Once you have the stone hands, pause the game and open up the Belongings menu, and then select the stone hands to learn the technique, because that's how advanced karate works. You just read a book and suddenly you're able to punch 3 times faster. Also, if you throw away the stone hands, you'll forget how to use the technique, because sometimes you need to consult the manual when you're punching someone in the face. The frat guys were dangerous before, but with the stone hands, we should have no problem defeating them. This bathroom area is an optional diversion. You don't need to come up here, but we will need to go back there later, so you can just run past it for now. Be careful not to fall into the large pit here. That is instant death. If you defeat all of the gang members on this screen, we'll be able to fight an optional boss named Moose. You do not need to fight this guy. If you do want to fight Moose, he's pretty easy to beat with the stone hands, and if you jump up onto a ledge in the background, he'll freeze in place just like any other enemy. Sometimes when Moose gets up after being knocked down, he'll do a retaliatory strike, but if you're standing on a ledge in the background, he'll just stand up and stop moving instead. Moose may have given us some money, but we don't want to buy anything at the waterfront bookstore. Those books will not grant you new techniques. They're more like food items, and not very good ones. Shea Wally's is another bad deal. Would you like to spend $27.75 to raise your throw power a measly 4 points? I sure don't. Miles Place, on the other hand, has one of the best food items, the egg roll. For only $3.50, it will raise your defense by 3 points, so that's only slightly more than $1 per point, which is a very good rate. Most of the food here at Merv's Burger Joint is a little bit overpriced, but there is one item on the menu that is special. It's not in the drink menu, it's in the side orders. My big beef with that movie Super Size Me is that he only went to McDonald's, and if he had gone to Burger King, he may have been able to buy some onion rings, which are like a superfood. Merv rings will raise your strength for $1.50 per point, so if you've seen any bodybuilders on TV, they probably did it by eating a lot of onion rings. If you want to check on your status, you can do it from the pause menu, and you'll see at the beginning of the game, most of our stats are set at 15 with the exception of stamina and max power. So if we want to raise any stat to the maximum of 63, we need to increase it by a total of 48 points. Stamina is your health, and it goes up to 127 points, but to raise your maximum power, you need to eat food that raises your maximum power when you're already at full stamina. The Karma Jolt they sell here at Jones's Pharmacy is a great item to keep on hand if you want to be able to restore your health in the field, but for now we want to focus on building up our character, so we're going to be spending most of our money on food. This woman who hangs out on the Capitol Avenue Bridge claims to be Slick's girlfriend and says that two guys named Randy and Andy are the ones who kidnapped Cindy. She also starts out the conversation by referring to herself in the third person, so she could just be a total nut job. I'm not really sure. In any case, if you head up here, we'll be able to fight a set of optional bosses named Benny and Clyde. As soon as you get in the room, double tap a direction to dash and then press both buttons to jump. Whenever you land, you'll be in float state, which means you'll deal additional damage until you get knocked down or jump again. Now just use your stone fists to take out one of the bosses. Keep using stone fists each time the boss gets up, and make sure to pick up any money they drop, because whenever you defeat both Benny and Clyde, you'll be able to pick up a total of $7, which is a ton of cash. That's enough money to buy 2 egg rolls over at Miles' place, which will permanently raise our defense by 6 points, and you'll also get back some stamina that you may have lost fighting the bosses. Even better, if you can eat the egg rolls when you have full stamina, you'll be able to raise your max power. In River City Ransom, you can fight bosses as many times as you want, and we'll get $7 every time we defeat Benny and Clyde. If we take that $7 and spend it on egg rolls, we'll only have to defeat the bosses 8 times to raise our defense to the maximum of 63. Raising your defense stat will increase the rate at which you block enemy attacks, so having a maxed out defense will make us very hard to kill. Sometimes things can go wrong while you're farming these bosses, but even if you do get killed, you'll just respawn at the waterfront mall, and as long as you've been spending all of your money, you won't have any to lose. So you'll just come back at full health, and you can head right back over to the Capitol Avenue Bridge and challenge the bosses again. According to the instruction manual, Benny and Clyde are from out of town, so I'm not sure why they're helping someone kidnap a high school girl, but it does make me feel a lot less bad about beating them up for their money. So by fighting these bosses over and over again and eating a steady supply of egg rolls, it won't be long before Alex has transformed into a total tank. You can always pause the game and check the status if you want to confirm that you've eaten enough egg rolls. And you can see our defense is at 63 and our max power is at 126, which is only 1 point away from the maximum possible. If you have any money left over, you can spend that money on Merv rings, which will help us to increase our strength. After defense, the next stats that we want to raise are strength and punch, and Merv rings will help us with the strength. As usual, smiles are always free, but they don't do anything useful. There's actually a faster way to build up our strength than eating a copious amount of Merv rings, so once we've maxed out defense, we're going to move on. We're going to be able to get fast money where we're going, so don't worry too much about fighting the bad guys, and just keep working your way to the right. If any enemies get in your way, feel free to pummel them with the stone fists, but you just want to make it to the next part of town. Here in the first part of the downtown area, you need to take this path up here between the trees. This zone with the large instant death pit leads to the WSL warehouse, and the squids are an extremely dangerous gang, so if you see them, don't mess around with them. Once you get into the warehouse, you're going to want to fight whatever enemies are here. If there are no enemies in the warehouse, leave and re-enter until some appear. We need to clear all of the enemies to make the game's first mandatory boss spawn. You can grab this crate and attack the enemies through the wall for safety. We're still not fully powered up at this point in the game, so this is a good way to conserve energy. To climb on the crates, get into these exact positions and hold up as you jump. Then hop across to the left side. Once the boss appears, you can go back over to the right side and use the crate to attack him through the wall, just like we fought the other enemies. Sometimes he'll even drop the wheel on his face, which could cause him to die. If that doesn't happen, you can drain this guy's health, but you probably won't be able to finish the fight by attacking him through the wall with the crate. So once you feel like you've given him a good beating, drop the crate, hop up on the boxes, jump across, and drop down directly on top of the boss so you can finish him off with the stone fists. With his last breath, Rocco tells us about a boss named Blade that we'll meet in Sherman Park, but Blade is only one of 3 bosses that we've unlocked by defeating Rocco. Here in the Armstrong Tunnel, if you go about 3/4 of the way to the right and press up against the background, you'll find this hidden store. While the items here in Merlin's Mystery Shop look exciting, the only one that's a good buy is the Isis Scroll, which will raise your throw power by a whopping 20 points for only $20. The other items are a lot like eating expensive sushi. They'll raise a bunch of stats, but they're kind of overpriced. Although some of them are pretty funny, like this gold medal that Alex was allowed to keep after passing a drug test. I guess they weren't checking for karma jolts. Anyways, over here in the Armstrong Thruway, we've encountered the mob, and yeah, that's like the mafia. We probably don't want to tangle with these guys, or we may end up sleeping with the fishes. We've made it to the Flatirons Mall, and here at the bookstore they sell a new technique called Fatal Steps that we'll want to purchase a bit later. Here at the Roman Cow, they sell ice cream and other items, but none of these are very good value. If you just want to raise your health, the pizza is slightly better than the lasagna. Now here at Amy's Sweet Tooth, this is the good stuff. For only 95 cents, we can raise our strength, throw, weapon, punch, or kick, making these some of the best values in the entire game. Right now, the most important stat to max out is punch, so spend any money that you have on rock candy, and then go into your belongings and eat it all. If you have too many items in your inventory, they'll kick you out of the store, so you can just keep buying rock candy until you can't buy it anymore. A lot of the most efficient items that we'll need to use to raise our stats will have to be consumed from our inventory, so we don't want to buy a whole lot of karate techniques or other items that will sit in our inventory and take up space until we're done raising our stats. So once you're done eating the rock candies, go back into Amy's Sweet Tooth and buy some more. Just keep doing this until you're out of cash. Also, if you have any Merv rings left in your inventory, make sure to eat those too. They're probably getting cold and kinda gross by now. Not that that actually matters, we just don't want them taking up any space in our inventory. If we take a look at the status menu, we've built our punch power up to 22, so we still have a ways to go, but for now, let's take a look at the other stores here in the Flatirons Mall. At the Happy Feet shoe store, you can buy an item called the Texas Boots, which you have to wear so it takes up space in your inventory, but it will max out your kick and agility stats for only $100, so that's something we're going to want to buy eventually. The T-Bones would be a pretty good value if we didn't already have maxed out defense, but if you were trying to raise defense and punch at the same time, eating T-bone steaks isn't a bad way to do it. Toys Galore sells a bunch of expensive junk. You'd think that something like a hyper ball could be a weapon, but no, it just raises random stats, and it doesn't do so efficiently. The music that you can purchase at CD Seller will restore a surprising amount of health, but it's not a great value for increasing your permanent stats. And once you're done in the Flatirons Mall, keep making your way to the right, and eventually you'll come here to the Third Wheel Factory. If you've ever been on a bad date, this is where third wheels are made. And here we've had to face the Cowboys, which are one of the worst gangs in the game, so we're going to try to quickly run past them. Be careful in this room, that is a huge open pit in the middle. Do not get knocked in there by the enemies. Take out any enemies that are in your way, jump up to this ledge, go all the way to the right, and sneak through the door. On the other side of the Third Wheel Factory, we'll find yet another mall. For such a small town, River City has a lot of places to go shopping, and over here on the left we'll find Kate's Cookies, which has a lot of excellent deals, very similar to the candy shop in the previous mall. The cookies do cost a whole $1, which is 5 cents more than the candies at Amy's Sweet Tooth, but the value is about the same. We're going to be eating a lot of cookies, but before we do, let's take a look at some of the other stores in this mall. The Tea Bag is not a great place to shop, although it has some items with funny names, like the Pound Cake that increases your punching and kicking ability. You should mostly just avoid the Tea Bag. The Oak Hill Bookstore is one of 2 bookshops here, and this one has a new technique called Grand Slam, which is a lot like Stone Fist, but for weapons. And here in Read All About It, you can buy a very expensive technique called Javelin Man, which will allow you to throw enemies across the screen, but that's one that's probably not worth it. As we peruse the menu for Hack's Chicken Shack, something seems familiar about this place. That's right. This menu is almost exactly the same as the one at Merv's. They just changed the names of some of the items, but the prices and the benefits are almost identical. You can even get the free smiles here. We smiled at her because we know that this is totally just a front for Merv's. You can't fool us, Hack's Chicken Shack. Cedar Street Drugs has some products like Date Saver and Love Potion that sound like the sketchy packs of vitamins you can buy over the counter at a gas station, but they also sell Karma Jolts if you need them. And over here in front of the health club, we meet our old friends Benny and Clyde again. They're still optional bosses, and they still drop a total of $7 when we defeat the 2 of them. Now though, we'll be able to take that money and spend it at Kate's Cookies to increase our other stats. With the $7 that we got from Benny and Clyde, we'll be able to purchase 7 oatmeal cookies, which will raise our punch power by 7 points. Raising our punch stat will increase the damage dealt by our punches, so our stone fist technique will deal more damage after each round of cookies we consume. And you'll notice the benefits of eating these oatmeal cookies right away, because each time you go back to fight Benny and Clyde, it's going to get easier and easier. Don't forget to actually eat the oatmeal cookies after you buy them. You have to go into your inventory to do that, and because we have 7 empty slots in our inventory, that's very convenient for buying 7 oatmeal cookies. So we'll be able to eat these cookies and quickly raise our punch stat up to 63. And after we do that, we can look at raising some of our other stats. If you do happen to die while fighting Benny and Clyde, you'll respawn right here at the Oak Hill Mall, so you'll be able to just get right back in there and fight them again. Just like before, if you've been spending all of your money on cookies after each fight, if you die, you won't lose any money. Don't forget to do a big dash jump at the beginning of the fight so that you'll be in float state, and that float state will make an even more noticeable difference whenever you have maxed out punch power. So after a few minutes of farming Benny and Clyde, we should be able to raise our punch up to 63, and then the next stat that we're going to want to raise up is our strength. So you can see we have 63 punch and 63 defense now. And you may think that raising strength would increase the amount of damage that you do, but it doesn't. Strength actually works against the enemy's defense. So by raising our strength, it'll make it harder for enemies to block us. Because we have maxed out punching and defense, this fight should be very easy now. So we're not going to go back to the mall after every fight. Instead, we're just going to take one step over to the right and then step back over to the left to quickly make Benny and Clyde respawn, and that's going to make building up cash go even faster. You only need $48 to raise any stat to the max using cookies, but because we've already eaten some Merv rings, we only need $42 to get our strength up to 63. The maple pecan cookies are the ones that we want to eat to raise our strength. And yes, we are going to have to buy 7 of them, then eat all 7, and then go buy 7 more and eat them again. It does take a while, so you want to make sure that you have the message speed set to fast. That will make it go by a little bit more quickly. It doesn't take that long to binge eat a bunch of maple pecan cookies, and in a short amount of time we'll have a third stat raised up to 63, so you can see punch, defense, and strength are all at 63, and we also have our maximum health at 127. With what we have right now, you should definitely be able to beat the game, but farming Benny and Clyde for money is so easy, we might as well do a bit of extra credit and pick up the money that we need to purchase some advanced combat techniques. For about $27, we can purchase the Dragon Feet, which is just like Stone Fists, but for kicks. Both Dragon Feet and Stone Hands are good attacks to start the game with, but I prefer to start with Stone Hands because there are no cookies to increase your kick power. You need to increase your kick power by eating the candies at the Flatirons Mall. So that just makes it a little bit easier to power up punches instead of kicks earlier in the game, so that's why I prefer to get the Stone Fists first. Now you can buy Stone Fists and Dragon Feet almost everywhere, but there are 2 special techniques that you can only purchase here at the Oak Hill Mall, so if we build up 5750 or more, we can purchase one called Grand Slam. Grand Slam is similar to Dragon Feet and Stone Fists, but for weapons. so it will make weapons attack at turbo speed, and sometimes I accidentally pick up weapons, so it's nice to have them be super effective when I do. Weapons also increase your damage, but we haven't been putting a lot of points into the weapon's stat, so right now our punches are going to be more powerful. The Grand Slam costs a lot more than the Stone Fists or the Dragon Feet, but there's another technique sold at this mall that's even more expensive. We'll need $78.25 if we want to purchase the Javelin Man, and to be completely honest with you, I don't recommend it. Javelin Man will allow you to pick up an enemy and throw him across the screen, which is kind of funny to do, but the problem with Javelin Man is that it takes up space in your inventory, doesn't really work on bosses, and once you get powered up, most of the time when you knock down an enemy, they'll just be dead. So here's what it looks like. That's Javelin Man. But you'll see you won't get a lot of utility out of this ability later in the game, because most bad guys are just going to die. You're much better off using that extra inventory slot to buy an additional Karma Jolt to use in case of emergencies. If you want to max out your weapon power at this mall, you can do that over at the cookie shop, but right now we're going to build up a big stash of money, over $142, so that we can purchase 2 more items, the Texas Boots and the Fatal Steps. If we get killed carrying this much money, we will lose half of it, so if you're risk averse, you may want to jot down your password, or even better, take a picture of it with your phone, and if you die, you can re-enter it to get your money back. In this room, we need to make a big jump to get over to the left side. As a kid, I thought this jump was impossible, but it can definitely be done. Clear out any enemies up here on the right side first. They'll get in your way, and then get all the way to the top of the screen against the wall. Get a running start by double tapping to the left, and jump at the very last second by pressing A and B at the same time. If you don't make it, just climb back up and jump again. Continue to work your way to the left towards the Flatirons Mall. The name of the game right now is to not die so that we don't lose half of our money. So avoid fighting the enemies and jump up on the background elements to keep them away from you. Once you get to the Flatirons Mall, we want to go to this open store to the left of the steak restaurant. For only one easy payment of $99.95, we can purchase the Texas Boots, an item that we do have to equip and wear, but it will instantly raise our kick and agility scores to the max. You can only equip one item from the shoe store at a time with the exception of insoles. You can wear as many pairs of insoles as you want, even though your feet might not fit in the shoes anymore. We'll take a look at our status and see we have a lot of 63s now. Also, when you're on the status screen, if you hold left on controller 2 and then press right and select on controller 1, you'll see these Japanese portraits of Kunio and Ricky and hear the Double Dragon theme. A useless but fun Easter egg. When you're done listening to the Double Dragon theme, we can make our way to the bookstore in this mall, where we can purchase the Fatal Steps. Now, the Stone Hands and the Dragon Feet, those weren't very good descriptions. I mean, Stone Hands makes your punches faster, not harder, and Dragon Feet definitely doesn't make your shoes spit fire. Fatal Steps, however, does what it says. It will allow you to step on enemies and kill them. Just press A and B at the same time when standing next to a downed enemy to use the Fatal Steps, and it does work on bosses, and this is a technique that we will use against them. So make sure to pick up the Fatal Steps, and then we're going to come over here to the exit of the Armstrong Thruway, and we need to clear out all of the enemies so that we can make a boss spawn. This boss is one of the 3 zombies, and we need to defeat all of them. Knock him down, get next to him, and press A and B at the same time to use the Fatal Steps. Then keep using it again and again until he's dead. It's really that easy. You may notice now that we have the Texas boots on that we move a lot faster, and that's because we've maxed out our agility score. Maxing out your agility will also improve your jumping ability. As you may have guessed, maxing out our kick stat will increase the amount of damage that our kicks deal. And although the Texas boots are a very good item, if you want to take the time to raise your kick and agility stat to the max without using the Texas boots, so just by eating sweets and other consumables, that will save you an inventory slot, so keep that in mind. Buying the boots is just a little bit faster, but it's not necessarily better. I sure hope the US Marshals are going to be able to help Alex relocate after killing all these Mafia guys. There's a really good chance he's going to wake up with a horse head in his bed. In any case, make your way into the warehouse. We're trying to work our way back to the waterfront mall now. We spent most of our money, so if we get killed at this point in the game, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, and we would respawn back at the waterfront mall. However, we may be hard to kill at this point in the game, so the only way that we can die easily would be to fall into an instant death pit, like this one right here. We're not going to do that, but that is something that you could consider. There's still one more martial arts technique that we haven't purchased yet, and if we kill enough enemies along the way plus get some money from bosses, we should be able to pick it up. Just like in real life, the frat guys often carry brass knuckles or whips, so watch out for them, especially since they'll throw the weapons at you. They do occasionally run away, but now that we're powered up, they probably won't have a chance to before they're killed. Pick up any cash left behind by the enemies, and keep working your way back to the left. You may think the jocks are a gang made up of people that play sports, but they're actually a bunch of guys that are named Jock. Just so it's not confusing, they call each other by their middle names. We took a bit of a beating on the way back to the waterfront, so we're gonna stop into good old Mal's place, and we'll eat some pepper beef to restore our stamina. That's probably the best deal here for health restoration. Considering the things we've been eating lately, pepper beef sounds downright healthy. But you know, the food pyramid here in River City Ransom begins and ends with junk food, and if you want to get buff, you gotta eat a lot of cookies and wear a serious pair of boots. We need to head up into this area with the bathrooms to fight another mandatory boss. This guy's name is Blade, and he's pretty easy to beat. You can just punch him down with the stone fists each time he gets back up. You may also want to try your fatal steps, but Blade usually doesn't have a chance to fight back. Blade will only appear after defeating Rocco in the warehouse, so that's why he wasn't there earlier. This next part is obviously optional, but if we head back to the Grotto Mall, we can purchase the final martial arts technique, the Acro Circus. The Acro Circus powers up your jump attack, turning you into a spinning cannonball when you jump at the enemies. Jump attacks were already very powerful with the highest modifier to damage in the game, but with the Acro Circus, you can deal even more damage. It's certainly unnecessary. You can easily defeat enemies with your stone fists and dragon feet, but the Acro Circus definitely looks cool. From here, we're just going to start working our way back across town to the right. There are 2 more bosses that we need to defeat before we can get into River City High School, but we'll be able to meet both of them along the way. Remember how many hits it took to kill Moose at the beginning of the game? Well, now you can take him out in seconds. You can really see how much more powerful we are now. So we're just going to run to the right, avoid most of these enemies. We have all of the items that we need right now, although we may want to purchase 1 Karma Jolt that we can use just in case of emergencies. And wow, that member of the Homeboys did not want to get punched out by Alex. and decided to end it all by jumping into the pit. Oof, tough choice. Maybe he saw the way some of these other guys barfed and didn't want any part of that. Well, make your way back into the warehouse, and remember to jump up onto those boxes. There's a very specific spot you want to be in, so right here in front of this box, and on that orange strip in the background, that'll get you up to the top. Don't be too close to the boxes or that barrier in the middle when you try to jump over them, and just walk straight to the door, drop down next to it, and enter by pressing up. So we're gonna head back through the tunnel. We'll try to avoid getting our legs broken by mobsters that are carrying lead pipes. And we need to get back here to this downtown area. Clear all of the enemies here, and another boss will spawn. This is the last of the 3 zombie bosses that we need to defeat before we can fight Thor. This boss's name is Mojo, and I like to hit him with the stone fists and just quickly get him with the fatal steps. If he does manage to get up, hit him with the stone fists again, but Mojo should not provide very much resistance at this point in the game. With Mojo out of the way, our next destination is the room in the 3rd wheel factory with the large pit. We can't really miss the next boss though, so we'll definitely run right into him when we get there. This area is populated by the squids, and the squids are members of the local swim team, which is why they're so fast. The squids are some of the most difficult gang members you'll fight in the gang, so most of the time you should just avoid them. Be careful not to drop off the bottom of the screen in this room, you can die from that. Head over here to the right, and it's time to face Thor. The big danger here is the pit, so we want to make sure that we're on the right side of Thor facing to the left when we start fighting him. Hit him with the stone fists and finish him off with the fatal steps, but just in case he manages to get up and hit you, you don't want to have your back to that pit, because if you fall into it, it's instant death. We're going to start making our push to the end of the game, so this is going to be our last opportunity to purchase items. We're going to pick up a Karma Jolt, which can restore 99 stamina if we need it, so we'll just keep that on hand for emergencies. The health club is the very last place where you can restore your stamina, and am I the only one that thinks Alex's butt looks like a face? In any case, you can get some stamina back here and also build up some willpower. We haven't really talked about willpower yet, but if you have a high willpower score, whenever you run out of health, it will prevent your death, and you'll come back to life with a little bit of health remaining. You may be able to come back several times if your will is high enough. And this is it. This is River City High School. We need to clear out any enemies in front of the gate, and then Ivan will appear. You'll only be able to fight Ivan if you've defeated Thor, and Ivan can be beaten like most other bosses. Knock him down with the stone fists, and keep using the fatal steps so that he never gets back up. With Ivan out of the way, we can make our way into the high school, and the bottom floor is the gym. You can stand up on some of these background elements to freeze the enemies if you need to. You may have to fight some difficult gangs in here. We do need to clear out all of the enemies in the gym so that we can spawn the next boss, and if we don't defeat the boss down here, we won't be able to fight the twins upstairs. This guy Otis does not like that we're wearing Texas boots on his gym floor, and we even got the ones with the spurs, so we are really messing up the boards. Knock him down with the stone fists and stomp him out with the fatal steps, and then to get up to the next level, jump underneath this basketball hoop, allow Alex to do a small jump, let go of the buttons, and then hold up and jump again. That should get you up to the top. You can skip all of the floors up above the gym and go straight to the top, but just to be thorough, we're going to clear them all. The cowboys here are a very tough gang. They block a lot, They use weapons, and they will try to double team you, which a lot of the other gangs just don't seem to do. Unfortunately for the cowboys, we are very hard to kill with the stats we have right now, so pummel these guys with your stone fists, or maybe use your dragon feet or the grand slam. Get a little bit weird with it. There's no boss down here on the first floor of classrooms, so once you're done fighting with the enemies there, you can make your way up to the next floor. There is a boss on this floor, but it's an optional one. You'll need to clear out all of the basic enemies first. We have the cowboys here again, and that's appropriate because the boss here, according to the instruction manual, is the leader of the cowboys, and his name is Tex. Tex will appear on the left side once all of the other enemies are defeated. Tex carries a big stick, so hit him right away with your stone fists, and you can try to finish him off with the fatal steps. If he does manage to get back up, give him a taste of your dragon feet. I'm sure he'd appreciate our Texas boots. Once you've put Tex out to pasture, make your way to the top floor. This time we have the squids to deal with, although it won't necessarily be them. It could be a number of the high-level gangs. Just clear out whoever's here, because it's time to face the twins, Randy and Andy. Stand in front of the left twin, face right, and use your stone fists. That should knock them both down. Now try to finish them off with the fatal steps. If they do manage to get up, these guys are extremely dangerous, and they'll do all sorts of jump kicks and crazy attacks. Make sure to use your Karma Jolt if you get low on health. Now this part's optional, but if you enter this small classroom, you'll see this scene with Cindy. Cindy tells Alex that she's late, and it seems that the gravity of that phrase goes right over his head. Once you're done talking to Cindy, make your way through the double doors, and it's time to face the final boss, Simon. Simon is actually easier than the dragon twins we fought earlier. Just knock him down with the stone fists and try to finish him off with the fatal steps. If he does manage to get up, knock him down with the stone fists again. It's really that easy. And that's it. We've done it. We've beaten River City Ransom. All we can do now is sit back, relax, and enjoy the cheesy ending. As Simon takes his final breaths, we get a bit of his backstory. It seems that he was Alex's friend, but he always hated him for some reason, so he decided to kidnap some other guy's girlfriend. Yeah, that still doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Unless the point of his plan was to get beaten to death on the roof of River City High School, in which case the plan worked flawlessly. In the original Japanese version, Simon is a character named Yamada, and Yamada appears again in the game River City Girls. According to that game, he gained his powers by using dark magic. Magic powers would explain how he got all of those different gang members to follow him, and how they all became honor students after the fact. Still, if Yamada wanted true power, witchcraft is weak. He should have just stuck to eating egg rolls and cookies. At the end of the game, it says that Cindy was rescued in time to finish her shopping, but it doesn't say anything about the comment she made to Alex in that upstairs classroom. Is Ryan the father? And if Cindy's eating for two now, we need to make sure that she gets some good nutrition. We should definitely take her down to Merv's and buy her some onion rings. Overall, this game has a fresh concept that is pretty well executed for the time. Sure, there's only 2 enemies on the screen at once, and there is some amount of flicker, but back in the early 90s, you just did not see action RPGs that you can play cooperatively with a friend. Well, I hope this video was able to help you finally beat River City Ransom and free the small town from Simon's stranglehold. If it did, make sure to give it a like, and make sure to subscribe for more videos. Because there will always be more bad guys that need a beatdown, And that's why we'll be back again next week with another video game you can beat. Thanks for watching.